Welcome back to the Basketball Down Under podcast. My name is Jordan. Alongside me here is Sam. We've got a very action-packed episode for you today. We've actually been able to secure an interview with one of the most up-and-coming coaches in Australian basketball. He's an assistant coach over in Tassie with the Jack Jumpers. And how good have they been coming into the competition? One of the best expansion teams in any sort of sport, obviously winning the NBL championship, led by Jack McVeigh with that crazy shot he hit in Game 3. We're going to throw to the interview in just a second, but before we do, Sam, the Boomers against Serbia. We'll leave the full thoughts for another episode, but maybe 30 seconds, quick thoughts on what the hell that was.
Oh, that was a frustrating game, Jordan. Going up, the first half, some of the most incredible shot making I've seen from Patty Mills. It's when you're up 24 points, you're like, oh, hang on. All of a sudden, you start looking ahead, to a potential USA game. But then, that end of the second quarter, they cut it down to 12, and it's like, oh, Jokic hasn't really had the ball yet. And it's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. And I remember texting you at halftime being like, oh, look, I know we've played well this half, but is it sustainable? And then, the rest is history. So quite a frustrating one there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seemed like you could see it coming, and I'll save my more unfiltered thoughts for our show later in the week. But 24 points up, biggest choke in Olympic basketball history, and Serbia nearly beat the US this morning as we're recording this. So perhaps it could have been really something historic for the Boomers, but unfortunately, yet another heartbreaker. But that's enough of the negative stuff. We're going to throw to our interview with Jack FLEMING. Great to chat with him. Sam, take it away.
All right, welcoming to the Basketball Down Under podcast. We've got the NBL 24 championship winning assistant coach for the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. We've got Jack FLEMING. How you doing?
Great to be here. Thank you, Sam.
Absolutely. No, we are very excited to have you on. Without further ado, we want to get straight into it. Now, Jack, you've been coaching obviously for quite a few years now. I've met you through Diamond Valley. You've done plenty of coaching in rep basketball, so through Diamond Valley, through Hawthorn. I've seen that you've done coaching through Box Hill Academy as well. Then obviously now you've made it to an assistant coach role for Tasmania. So what's that been like, and what have been the differences between, coaching the youth and then now coaching, some of the best athletes in the world?
Yeah, about 3 years ago, I took this job as an assistant coach with the Tassie Jack Jumpers in the NBL as a brand new franchise and a new staff and a new team. So it's been a whirlwind, but an amazing experience. And that was right in the middle of COVID. So I was coaching at Box Hill Senior Secondary and had a team at Hawthorn Magic at the time. And right in the middle of a lockdown, made the move to Tassie and started the role. So it's been an excellent journey and one of great growth for me. I think the great part is that whether it's seniors or juniors, that it's still men that love the game. And once upon a time they were 14, 15-year-old kids who loved running around with their mates. So from that standpoint, it's still very similar. But the main difference is what we get here and what we're very lucky to do is have the everyday environment where you spend every day with one team and you're building towards the season, whereas when you're coaching in a junior standpoint, you're only usually seeing your team once or twice a week. So that's a major difference, but at the end of the day, we're still people and guys who love the game. So I feel very grateful to have this role from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously coaching Tasmania, like in regards to Tasmania and sports, obviously we just had the announcement of the Tassie Devils in the AFL, but obviously the Jack Jumpers being like the first real main Tassie sports team that we've had here in Australia. What's that been like coaching in front of all the fans of such an area where they just seem exceptionally passionate about not just basketball, but sport in general?
Yeah, it's definitely a sporting state that's been starved of a pro team for a very long time. The Devils finished in 1995, and it's really only been the Hurricanes in the T20 who's been around from a pro team standpoint. So for us to be one of the only pro teams means that the support has been tremendous. I think every game at My State Bank has been a sellout, and it's extremely hard to get a ticket. So the club has done a brilliant job of engaging with the community, especially the north and the south of the state. And then the people have been amazing in terms of the support we've had at home and even on the road. When we play in Melbourne, we feel like we have our own little home crowd there with people who've moved back to Melbourne or people who have come across for the game. So unbelievable support. And as a player, it'd be a very lucky place to play and have that behind you when you're playing.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on we'll touch on the championship series against Melbourne a bit later, but I went to game 5 where you guys ended up beating Melbourne and winning the championship. But like the amount of Tassie fans that were there, it felt like it was nearly on par with Melbourne, especially as how loud they were. It was crazy. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Oh, absolutely. I think in the first year, we beat Melbourne in game 3 in a semi-final, and there was like a march chant from a pocket of Tassie supporters. So even from back then to now has been incredible, and I feel like there was at least 1,000 Jackies fans at that game 5. So we feel very lucky to have that on the road. It's a very nice little advantage.
Yeah, and so obviously you being an assistant coach, you're coaching under Scott Roth. So what's Scott Roth like as a head coach?
Yes, Scott's done a fantastic job of understanding that the quality of your program is the quality of the people that you bring in. And he was very selective when we first started the team about having high character guys who are humble and hungry and looking for an opportunity, but more importantly, that they're going to be about the team and then they're going to be about the right things. So I think that set the table for everything that we do. We're fortunate to have a great bunch of people. And then he was very strong in his leadership and how we were going to play in that first year. And that set the table for what took us 3 years to get to a certain point. But mainly, he believes in strong people, strong work ethic and how we attack our day and our practice, and then being a defensive first team. So those 3 things gave us an identity to build off in our first year, and other areas of our program have grown. But if you would say a few words about Scott Roth, would definitely be a strong leader and a defensive first coach.
Yeah, and obviously going from a franchise that just got founded in 2020, started 2021, going to the finals in your very first season, and then obviously not getting the end goal that you're after, but then managing to still make it into the finals the following season, and then winning a championship the following season after that. Like you mentioned, Scott Roth bringing in guys that are really really dedicated to the sport. What made the Jack Jumpers so successful from the get-go, do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't start out as smooth as we would have hoped. We were 2-6 in those first 8 games, and but we felt like we were close. But I think when we came into that first year, the one thing we knew was that if you finished in the top 4 defensively, you had about a 75% chance of making the playoffs. So while we were struggling, we knew that we were in games, and eventually our offense caught up a little bit. So I think that was a major part of it, and quite the unique scenario where we had 15 players all move to Tassie at one time. So nobody was from here who was on the roster, maybe one development player. So what that meant was that everyone was starting their life fresh, and that made people spend a lot of time together off the floor and build quite a unique bond just from being on a journey together that was maybe once in a lifetime. So I think that connection and culture that was built, and then really having a defensive identity. I think those were the 2 things that set the table. And then, you have to have a bit of luck. Chris Goulding hurt his hamstring in game 3, and we were able to get across the line in the semi-final, and then we weren't really close to Sydney at the back end there. But I think those couple of things gave us a chance. There's a lot of other external factors there, but if you don't have defense, then you don't have anything to build on.
Yeah, and you mentioned bringing a certain culture to Tasmania. You've got, obviously this season, you've ended up winning a championship. Was there a difference in like a switch in mentality or culture or anything this season compared to potentially the last couple of seasons, or do you view it more as like a building off of each season? Like obviously the whole goal started out of winning a championship 3 years ago, but it's just been a building work in progress since then.
I think we made from year to year we made small jumps in different areas of our program, and whether that was how we practice or how we do our individual work, and players making small improvements like the growth of Will Magnay and Jack McVeigh were obviously huge in how we became such a tough team to deal with in the back end of the playoffs in year 3. But then also, we made some tweaks to our roster year by year, and they were only subtle, 1 or 2 guys here or there, but Majuk Deng became a major factor in the final series against Melbourne. That was a real spark plug, and even the continuity of having Milton Doyle there in his second year, I think helped where we wanted to go. So it was a lot of small things within our program, and then some roster tweaks that definitely helped. But the growth of Will Magnay and Jack McVeigh was probably a major factor, and that's a credit to the work that they did within our program to get Will physically healthy to a great spot in his 3rd season. And then obviously Jack going from being really a 9-point a game player at Adelaide to I think it was 15 or 16 points a game in the 23-24 season.
Yeah, no, it was crazy seeing Jack McVeigh's growth just straight from Adelaide to obviously to Tassie, and then even to obviously the Boomers, which we'll touch on in a few minutes. But look, just skipping to the final series against Melbourne United, like that's playing against a team like Melbourne United. You've got Chris Golding, you've got Della Vedova, you've got Luke Travers, Shea Illy, Joe Luala-Chul, Ariel Hukporti. Like you got all these guys who pretty much could have NBA. Like some of them have NBA experience, some of them professionally. Joe Luala-Chul, for example, has played summer league in the US, has been top 3 in MVP. Like this is a star-studded team. What was it like coaching against a team like that?
Yeah, we had some great battles with Melbourne over the 3 years, but even last season in the regular season, and they were quite dominant for those first 24, 25 games where they'd only lost a couple. So we knew that their physicality and their toughness was going to be a challenge. And Delhi and Chris Goulding were having stellar years. So when we got through that first game, we lost by I think it was about 21, and we didn't play well, but the taxation of the Perth series probably caught up with us a little bit. So we just had to reset and refocus. And when we got that game 2 back down in Hobart, we knew that the next 3 were going to be, every game was going to go down to the last 2 minutes. And it really came down to those small things, 1 baseline out of bounds play, 1 offensive rebound here or there. And the team that did the little things well was going to get across the line. But and it was just a star-studded series of highly intelligent and skilled players, especially Della Vedova. He's a special player.
Yeah, you mentioned the small little things to do to win basketball games, but not really a small thing. But what about Jack McVeigh's 3-pointer to end game 3? What were your thoughts on such a? That was an unreal shot. Like you don't just pull up from half court essentially for the win, and he does so. What were your thoughts on that one?
Well, when I saw it touch his hands, I definitely knew he wasn't passing it. I knew he was going to take that moment for what it was. But at the end of the day, we defended the sideline out of bounds well, and we came up with the ball. And those moments are very much make or miss. But Jack's a credit to the work that he's done across his career to continue to improve, and he backs himself in those moments, and it really paid off for him and the group. So really pleased for him, and now his opportunity to go into Houston and chase his NBA career.
Yeah, absolutely, and well deserved for Jack McVeigh. And do you think that 3-pointer there sort of, because he ended up being the finals MVP, what type of confidence do you reckon Jack McVeigh was able to gain from that shot that will not only help him, for his NBA group, but he's obviously had some Boomers experience now. But what's the confidence like of Jack McVeigh? How do you think he's going to progress, obviously, into the NBA?
Yeah, I think Jack's mindset is always about continuing to improve and get better. And regardless of whether that shot went in or not, that's what he's done here. And I think he had 28 in game 4, and I can't remember what he had in game 5, but those performances were instrumental in, getting us across the line. And I think he's going to be a consistent learner, no matter whether he plays the 3 spot or the 4 spot or whatever teams are going to ask him to do. He's going to continue to impact winning, and he's got the master skill, the 3-point shot. So that always gives him a chance to get on the floor. But him doing the little things keeps him on the floor. So I think he's got plenty ahead of him. He's right in his sweet spot of his career. So we can't wait to see what he does for the future. Obviously,
that shot. Jack McVeigh shoots that shot. You guys win game 3. You end up losing game 4. So it just goes to show you, if he misses that shot, it's such a close league, the NBL. Like, all the teams are they're on the same level as each other. He misses that shot, potentially you guys don't win the series. That's how close, the series is. But then just going to game 5, what's that pressure like going down, like against the Melbourne team, who at home, John Cain Arena can get very loud. What's that like playing against the star-studded team game 5 away?
From our standpoint, what we always wanted to do is just be consistent with our processes throughout the year. So after every game, we review what we did well and what we can improve. And, our individual players come to the assistant coaches for things individually that they can tidy up and things that they did well. And from the first game of our season to game 5 of the Melbourne series, we kept that exactly the same, whether we won by 20 or lost by 20. And I think that those processes kept us steady when it comes to a big game like that. We tried not to ebb and flow throughout the season, so that when you get in those moments, it's really just business as usual. And at that point, you're that deep into the season and that deep into the series that you've had everything thrown at you. It's really just one more game. So that was what our mindset wanted to be. And those games are all about poise and composure. If you can have those two things and stay connected as a group in those moments, it's going to give you a chance at the very minimum.
Yeah. And going from obviously winning the championship, obviously 2 stars in Jack McVeigh and Will Magnay have ended up getting their names called for the Olympics. And obviously the Olympics didn't go the way that the Aussies may have wanted it, but how does it feel being a coach and seeing, 2 guys that you've worked with, go to that next level, to that international level?
Yeah, it's extremely rewarding to see both of those guys make that jump. Whenever you get an opportunity to represent your country, especially at the Olympics, it's really the highest honor. So we were so rapt for those guys. Obviously, Jack, just through his growth throughout his basketball career, and how that's improved since he got here. And he had a great off-season in Germany last year too, which would have helped. And all those things accumulated to, there was games in the Boomers where they couldn't keep him off the floor. They had to have him on because of his shooting and what he brought to the group. So we were rapt to have him, see him wear the green and gold. And then Magnay's been on quite a unique journey in terms of setbacks with injuries, and to play out the back end of our season as well as he ever has was so rewarding. And then to carry that through to the Olympics, and he had some amazing matchups at the Olympics, or pre-tournament games with Embiid and with Jokic and, those caliber of players. So they're both only going to get so much growth from the experience, and hopefully be able to bring it back to the Jack jumpers, at least for Will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess looking forward to NBL 25. Obviously, we've touched on Jack McVeigh's obviously earned his way to the NBA. You've got some new pieces into the Jack Jumpers this upcoming season. So obviously Ruben Turangi, Roman Cialipa, who looks to be a freak. You've got Craig Sword, Brody Nunn. You've got a good group of guys coming in. Have you managed to be training with them so far, or seeing a bit about what they've been like?
Yeah, we're about 2.5 weeks into our preseason here. So, yeah, really excited for some of our new Aussie talent, with Gorjok and Roman and Brody and Ruben. We think that they can all bring something unique to the table in terms of, what we need from our group. And, yeah, especially excited to see how Gorjok Gak goes. Just he's had his own challenges with injury and health as well. So looking forward to seeing what he can do for us. And then we think that Craig Sword will provide a defensive anchor that maybe we haven't had in the perimeter position before, and being able to play against those quicker guards or bigger wings is going to be something that we did struggle with in areas throughout the season. So we hope that he can add that too. But yeah, we're lucky to have 8-9 guys coming back, but it's also exciting to have fresh faces in the building.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting. And then, yeah, just for you personally, just a question I've got for you. As an assistant coach at an NBL level, what's like your day-to-day routine like during the season? How do you go? What's your process like?
Yeah, I'm maybe a little bit different to some people. I like to get most of my work done in the morning. I find that that's sort of my sweet spot. So I'll usually get into the office pretty early and try and get a couple of hours in, whether it's my scouts or my individual film, or, I do a lot of work on the offensive side of the ball for our team. So preparing from that standpoint. And then we'll usually meet about 7:30, 8 o'clock as a staff, talk about the plan for the day, game planning, practice planning, whatever that looks like. And then around 8:30, 9 o'clock, we'll have team video. And then we'll go onto the floor, we'll do our individuals for about an hour. And then we'll have team practice from 10 till 12. So that's sort of the first half of our day. And then we'll have lunch with the team, and then sort of back to the grindstone of scouts or game planning, depending on the time of the seasons, maybe some individual film with some players in the afternoon. But yeah, the season, there's not really a day off. It's extremely exciting, and you're always preparing for the next game, but it is crazy and busy, but we wouldn't have it any other way. It's a great place to be, and an exciting league to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, yeah, just obviously touching back on some of the new players you've got. I know Roman Sialipa, for example. I think Ruben Tarangi as well. But like these guys during like NBL off-season time have been able to play NBL 1 basketball. Obviously, Roman coming in, obviously as a junior coming into NBL 1. And, you've obviously got NBL guys that play NBL 1 in the off-season. In regards to NBL 1, is that just something that you as a coach just keep tabs on throughout the whole season?
Yeah, we try and keep track of our minor leagues, whether that's NBL 1 across each area of Australia, but especially also our New Zealand league, which has done a great job of providing high-level competition for our Aussies and Kiwis in the off-season. So we we keep track of, pretty much every league, who's playing well, who's unknown that's popping up here or there. And it provides a great platform for players who are in the NBL who don't play as many minutes during the season to go and work on their game, or for guys who aren't in the NBL who are trying to showcase their talent. So the way the league has formulated NBL 1 to all be part of one stream where every game is accessible with commentary and proper stats and all of that, that's made our jobs as NBL coaches really easy to talent ID and see who's coming through the ranks, which is, as an example, Brody Nunn having a great year with Knox NBL 1 definitely helped his case for our signing. So it's an exciting platform for players to continue to develop from.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the last question I want to ask you, being a coach, you've obviously coached at many different levels. If you were to say to any player, whether it be, junior or even professional, what is something that you look for as a coach in players? If you're scouting players, what is like the main thing that you look for in a player?
Yeah, I think, and you see it here in the NBL with the best, but it's really just, a resilient and a growth mindset every day to come into work and do your job. And and try and improve. And one of the best ones we have is Clint Steindl. You know, he's 35 years old. He's played over 350 games, but he's still here 15 minutes early. He still does his prep work every single day. He's still, you know, his attention to detail and his own individuals with his shooting. And, you know, his ability to continue to want to master his craft and be consistent with that, whether he plays 20 minutes or 0 minutes or whatever that looks like. So, you know, that resilience and that growth mindset to come in and be the same person every day and continue to improve regardless of setbacks. I think that whether it's a junior player or a senior player, that's the thing that gives you a chance to, you know, have longevity in the game at whatever level. And, you know, we're fortunate to have a lot of those guys, and they have an impact on others. It's quite infectious.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, perfect. Thank you, Jack. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, obviously we'll be keeping track of the Jack Jumpers in NBL 25. Wishing you guys all the best. And yeah, you guys are starting out a bit different this year. You've got you're playing in the Gold Coast, is it? Hoops Fest, something like that?
Yeah, so our preseason, we have the Blitz in the Gold Coast, so we'll play 2 games up there, and then we actually head straight to Singapore for the Intercontinental Cup. So we'll play against a G League team and some other international teams over there in a tournament, and then we head straight to Perth for the Hoop Fest. So we've got a pretty jam-packed preseason with travel, but it'll be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that International Cup? Is that a new thing? Do you know, or?
It's been around a little bit, but there hasn't been an NBL team in for a while. So, yeah, we were lucky enough to be rewarded after winning the title. So it'll be cool just to have some games against different styles of play and, see how we go and test against the best.
Yeah, perfect. Well, wishing you guys all the best for NBL 25. Thank you again, Jack, for coming on. And, we'll bring it back to Jordan for our outro. But thank you very much, Jack.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Sam.
How good was that there to chat with Jack Fleming? Like we said in the intro, one of the most up-and-coming coaches here in Basketball Australia, and obviously the assistant coach with the Jack Jumpers, looking, obviously, next year to go back-to-back, or next season. It's coming up very, very soon. Now, before we go, obviously, the Boomers are out, but the Opals, as we currently are here, they are playing the US, I believe, on Sunday night. Now, they'll need something to go very, very right. But at the same time, we did see Serbia and the men nearly knock off the Dream Team today. So the US, they are vulnerable. Can the Opals, should I say, cause the upset of the century?
I mean, it's not impossible. We'll say that. Like, it's funny. The thing that I don't get about the USA team, for the women's especially, is that at the All-Star tournament that they had for the women's, the All-Star team played against the US women's, and the All-Star team won. So it's like interesting, led by like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all of those girls. But it's like, is this really the best US team you could provide? But I mean, at the end of the day, they're still an excellent team. But look, as we've seen in the men's one, the competition seems to be a lot closer than at least what it used to be. So at the end of the day, the Aussies just need to make their runs, and hopefully the timing's right, where the US maybe not having the greatest game and Australia come out hot. But look, you never know.
That's exactly it. It's all about not turning the ball over. And we've seen Lauren Jackson in the NBL 1 score some 50-point games. It'd be handy if she could at least get half of that. She's obviously arguably the best women's basketball player ever. If anyone's going to step up, that's the time. And, with all the probably US women's teams to get, this is the one. But, hopefully we haven't put a jinx on them. And at least they'll be in a bronze medal game, which is good to see and what they deserve. But that is the end of another show here on the Basketball Down Under podcast. Great to have Jack Fleming on the show. Looking forward to the next episode, where hopefully we're talking about a potential preview of a gold medal game. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Unfortunately, Noah Lyle's prediction of world champion of what? The United States. Serbia could have done a great thing. They didn't. Boomers out. But, oh well. And we'll see you next time on the Basketball Down Under podcast.